We are live.
There it is.
Hey
There it
y'all.
is. What's going on? What's going on, man? Welcome to Deconflicted Podcast, where we go over the three D's of discernment, decisions, and deconfliction. Um, Man, we got another great conversation, and I'm gonna go ahead and let everybody introduce themselves. Man, my name is Antoine. I actually just found out my actual last name is Javius, not Jarvis. And this whole time I've been thinking my last name was Jarvis, but it's actually Javius. My grandfather
Hmm,
spoke Creole. Um,
interesting.
I just
Mm.
found out I got Jamaican in me and some more stuff. So
Melting
yeah,
pot right there.
I can
man,
I can
melting
I can
pot.
see it.
Melting pot, man. I just found out my great grandmother was from was from Africa, right? My
Mm.
great grandmother was from Africa, came in the early 1700s and was on the slave list to Lawrence Washington, who was George Washington's brother. Um,
Mm.
Crazy. But I know that's so random, but literally just found this out this like last week.
Mm.
And I just thought about it as I'm introducing myself. I was gonna say my last name, and then I realized that's not even my real last name. They only
Exactly. I just
changed
lied
it.
to the people.
Right. And I didn't want to do
Yeah.
that. You know what I'm saying? So I
We
didn't
keep
want
it
to do
real
that.
here.
They keep it real. So I was like, I just found out that, they changed it to Jarvis because it was so hard for the teachers, for my grandparents, it was so hard for the teachers to say Javius. So they just changed it to Jarvis to make it easier for them, and we ran with it. But on my grandfather's, on his mural, you know what I'm saying, it says our real last name. And so,
Solid.
man, yeah. So definitely, I'm gonna start with, what I'm saying, Antoine. Last name is Javius. And man, go ahead. Everybody introduce themselves, please.
Well, I actually had a question about that. You says it is it UIS?
It's Javius.
Oh, okay. So like you, like if free Creole and French, it has like that so I would say more like Javu or Javus.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Which I
Mhm.
had no, I didn't know nothing about because I didn't really get to know my grandfather,
Mhm.
um, like I wanted to. But when I was with my auntie recently, you know what I'm saying, she was telling me like he had an accent. Like there were certain things she was repeating that he would say, and she would say it
Mhm.
with an accent, and I was like, Auntie, why are you
What?
talking like that?
Huh?
Like,
Yeah.
why are you saying it like that? And she was like, you didn't know your grandfather, says spoke Creole
Yeah.
and he spoke with
Yeah.
an accent. I was like,
Yeah.
no, like what?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
it,
that's
it
my
was it was
people.
dope. It
That's
was it was
Yeah.
crazy
it was
right
super
there.
dope. Super
Okay.
dope, man.
It's
Super dope.
crazy when we find out things that we didn't know about ourselves.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And I used to not like ancestry.com, but my aunt used it and it provided such a beautiful blueprint of the tree that she created over the last 2 years of
Right.
where we're coming from. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
Filled in a
Where's the
lot of blanks.
relations? Who's the bloodline? Where's the bloodlines at? All that type of stuff, man. It's a trip on the information that they provide.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna do one myself. Let me
Mm.
introduce myself. I'm Brian Boggs, your boy, trying to live the best life I can. I'm just a man. The other side of
There it
deconflicting,
is.
you know, just here to offer perspective, tell you something you might know, something you might not know.
Well, I'm Dr. Benet Love Bailey. I am so excited for today's show. These are my brothers, and so anytime that we can get on and have healthy, constructive conversation, I'm always here for it. So.
For sure.
Absolutely. Go ahead,
So
my
let's
brother.
so let's go ahead and kick this off. The question is, why are men expected to show grace to women, right? And now when my question, um, I got another part question attached to that, right? Because we have a woman on the line that can provide some great feedback. My second part to that is, do we feel that in a perfect world it goes both ways, but what are we seeing today? The lack of women being able to show empathy and grace for men, and why?
Mm.
Hmm. That's that's
Well,
that, that's a great second part of that question. But go ahead, Benay. I didn't mean to cut you off.
so from a woman's perspective, my personal opinion, men are expected to show grace because of leadership, right? You have to be the example. We are to follow, right? And so, if you're not extending that grace, then it can be viewed as something different, right? When if we mess up, that's the humanistic side of us, right? We're not all perfect. So you showing grace allows us to relax more in our femininity as well, because now we're not in conflict,
Hmm.
right? um so that was just to me, the answer to that first question. Can you repeat the second?
The second one was more along the lines of, do you see from your personal experience, right? Do you see women practicing showing empathy for their man, and
Mhm.
offering grace to their man within their relationships from your
No,
experience?
no, not as much as we should, right? So with the statement that I just gave about men showing that grace, right? Most often, men are constantly showing grace, right? You could tell your woman to do something, right? Like, hey, I like to have my dinner ready by 6. Okay. If she doesn't have it ready by 6 and she says, well, the kids, or I was in traffic, or this or that, most men are understanding, right? They're not just going to spaz out, right? And they may say, okay, I understand that, but maybe, is there anything I could do to help you with time management? Like, there's always, to me, I see that there's work towards resolution. Oftentimes, however, until you guys are fed up and have to express yourself maybe in another way that feels like conflict, do we not hear you, right? And now it's a battle, right? When the whole time you were talking to us in the most respectful, kind, sweetest, careful way that you could, while trying to get what you were asking to get done, right? And so, unfortunately, I do see that as an issue, that we're expecting the grace, but we don't often give that grace to men. That's either a lack of respect, a lack of self awareness within you as a feminine woman on how to kind of foster or get the results out of the man that you want. It's not through conflict or shame or belittling. It's more in your ability to be feminine, in the sense of knowing how to speak to that man to get those results, if that makes sense. So, unfortunately, no, I don't see a lot of women offering that same kind of grace, and which we should, because when you do that, that changes the man and vice versa. So if we're both giving each other grace, now that's a beautiful thing. Now we can communicate. Now we can problem solve. Now we can move forward with whatever plan or whatever we're trying to do. But if we're at odds with each other, it's never going to work.
I
What's your
agree
thoughts?
with
What's your
that.
thoughts, Brian?
For me, like I am under the belief that men are always expected to give grace, and I disagree with that premise because we're human beings as well.
Correct.
And if you're giving and not getting, it starts to put a mark on you, your soul, your heart, your conscience. You start to feel like you're being starved.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Because I do feel that women struggle with uh, with grace when it comes to men. I'm not gonna say that they don't give it, because don't get me wrong, there's plenty of women that give grace to their man when he messes around or does stuff like that. She'll give him grace for that. But when it comes to normal, regular grace, like in just regular life, not extreme situations,
Right.
not in the negative space. It's like they tend to have a problem hearing. And when I'm not saying hearing, they have a problem listening. They can perceive what you say, but they have a problem processing it and responding in like manner because they're so focused on what they're thinking about that what you're thinking about doesn't carry as much. Like I was in my men's group yesterday, and we were talking, and I brought up something, and I find it interesting that when when a man is with a woman, and a man talks about how he feels, a woman always talks about how she feels about what he feels, and then it becomes about her feelings instead of his feelings.
Mm.
Like a competition, kind of.
It's just a natural thing where since the feminine is the more feeling person, once a man exposes how he feels, now instead of it being about how the man feels, it's now about how the woman feels about how the man feels. Instead of
So
how
that
the
so
man
that
feels.
so that sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong. That sounds like it's a feeling competition.
That's
But it's
it.
it's
It
it's
ain't a
not.
competition. It's a takeover. It's not a competition.
Okay, so
Well,
okay, so that's what I'm hearing
so
when you
let me
telling me
offer some.
It's a
when you
back and
telling me
forth.
about that. You know what I'm
A
saying? Like when you
competition
telling
is a
me,
back and forth.
I'll offer
right? So it's
some
it's
some
more so like a
some.
one-sided competition, if you will. Like, oh yeah, you're not
Yeah.
gonna outfeel me,
No.
if that's what I'm hearing.
So I'll shed light on that. I've been guilty of that as well. And what it really is us trying to express a certain amount of empathy, right? Like, okay, now we're talking about feelings. So I'm going to take this opportunity to try to relate to you and express it. But what happens when we open up those emotional gates on that end and like, finally, okay, I can talk about my emotions, it does veer off into our personal attributes, and that's okay for relatability. But I think where the correction needs to be, not always do you need to relate, right? Because as a woman, sometimes we don't want you to fix it, we want you to what, listen.
Listen. Exactly.
Majority of the time, yeah, listen,
Right. And
yeah,
so the same thing is true for the men. He doesn't necessarily need you to relate because, quite honestly, sis, you can't relate, right?
right,
So the thing will be is to listen, right? And what I've learned to do is to listen. And it's interesting when you allow that extra 10 seconds for him to listen and you ask other questions, you really get to peel back the layers of a man's mind, his feelings. Like that time, Twan, that we all went to dinner when you guys were talking to me about, man, as soon as we walk outside, we have to put on this armor, this whole mask, because it's a threat. We're constantly in a threat. As a woman, we can go out willy-nilly, not even thinking about will we make it back at home. You guys have to think about that, constantly. So it's a totally different um thing when a man really starts expressing his feelings and his emotions and his thoughts about things. We can't just take over, like you said, the conversation, and then he's still feeling that he didn't get it out, right? There was no real release. And now he's back into protection and provision mode, trying to, guard your feelings. And the conversation really started about, hey, this is what's going on with me. So that's
right.
the reason, but the correction should just be, hey, sis, sometimes he don't need you to fix it. He don't need you to relate. He just wants you to listen. And you will learn so much more about your man listening.
And I want to add something to that. So first of all, we do want you to fix it. We don't want you to fix us though. We
Yes.
want you to
Correct,
fix yourself.
correct,
Because normally,
correct,
if a man is talking about how he feels about you, that means you're doing something that's making them feel a certain way.
correct.
Yes, if you're
So
talking, if you're, I was just saying in general though, like if you're
I got
talking
you.
about, something going on within the relationship, yes, he does want you to fix it. But if,
Well, not fix it, fix you. Like
Your
I'm
when
very
I'm
specific when
saying
I say
it
fix you.
is your action or whatever the
It's
issue
what
he's
you're
bringing.
doing
Yeah.
that needs to be fixed. Because like and that's the reason why again why I say why men always expect to give grace because a man is supposed to give grace to how a woman wants to feel. A woman's supposed to be able to feel however she feels. You know, like those saying, if you can't accept me at my worst, why should you accept me at my best? And I think
Mhm.
Right.
I think that's a bowl of crap. Like I know I
Yeah.
want your worst. Like if I want to get your worst, I want
It's
if I got to get
justifying
your
bad
worst. I
habits.
don't want your best. I don't want that
Yeah.
either. Keep all that
Yeah.
stuff to yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. It's
You
yeah.
know what I'm saying?
That's justifying bad habits.
Right.
And that's the part I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying? So when a man is expressing how he feels about something that you're doing, and because normally it's an emotional thing, you know what I'm saying? Whether or not a man is communicating to you and you're not listening to him, and he's trying to tell you something, he's trying to get a message to you, and women tend to care more about how the message is delivered than what the message content is. That creates a problem in there. And a man is supposed to
Yeah.
give grace to the woman caring about what the message content, I mean, how the message was delivered, but she's not giving no kind of grace to what the content of the message was. And
Agreed.
the message never gets received and acted upon.
Right.
Well, I'm not
So
saying
let
never,
me
but oftentimes.
ask you a question. Do you feel like your approach can be different with that understanding?
I don't understand your question.
So meaning if you know that um uh she's not hearing you or she's veering off into an emotional thing and it's more about how you say it than what the content of what you're saying is it your job to communicate in a way that she can understand and receive what you're saying?
This is what I'll say. I do believe that the sender of a message should understand his audience and communicate in a manner that the audience can receive it.
Mhm.
I do believe in that. At the same time, when a multitude of ways have been utilized
Yeah.
to send a message and they still don't want to receive it because it's not necessarily about them not being able to receive the message. It's about them not wanting to do anything about it. Because this is who I am. I just want to be this person.
That's who I
But
am.
you know what I'm
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know exactly what you're saying. Yeah. I know exactly what you're saying. This is who I am. They don't want
That's
to change themselves. They just want you to change how you view them. And there's a challenge there because, like you said before, I don't want you at your worst. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm not giving you my worst,
thank,
right?
thank you. Thank you.
So that's and this is why I asked the question at the very beginning about the empathy piece because are you able to put yourself in my shoes? And I
hmm
understand we live two different lifestyles. What me and him live is a different lifestyle than what she lives, right? So with that being said, with that being the reality, um, yes, we do practice patience when communicating as men. We do exercise grace because we know that the things that I'm telling you, some of it you may not even comprehend because it's a life you don't even live. You understand what
hmm
I'm saying? Um, and I think that's why, for one, this is a sidebar. That's why men's groups are important because a lot of the times going to your woman about the challenges you're having, it may go over her head. But for a men's group, there are other men going through those same challenges. And if you go to those, you know what I'm saying, if they're overcoming those, which more than likely they are, you can get some feedback off of that as a sidebar. Um, but I think that's a woman's greatest challenge is being able to put herself in a man's shoes so that way she can understand where he's coming from when he's saying what he's saying, right? And not hold on to the stereotypical understanding of how a man is supposed to be
Mm.
because not
Well,
all men are the same.
true. And I'll say, I've been on both sides, and um what really changed it for me is I met somebody that can communicate or made me feel safe, that it wasn't like a personal attack, right? I think sometimes it is a delivery, right, of how you say things and why you're saying it, right? Um, we want to give you our best, and so if we don't know we're doing that, and you're telling us that we are, and we feel like we are giving you our best, therein lies the conflict, right? I'm not understanding why you're telling me to do this because nobody else said anything, or I feel it within myself. It's this, that, and a third, right? However, um, when you can make that correction not feel like discipline, or not make it feel hurtful, or whatever, and hurtful is subjective, trust me.
Hmm.
Right,
Everything's subjective.
right, you can say anything, um
Facts.
but someone came, and told me the straight up and down truth, but he said it in such a way I felt safe with him. So that's number one. Is if she's not receiving your message, there's something about you that she's closed herself off to. Because when she's open to the man in totality, she's open to receive the message, if that makes sense. And so I had to understand I didn't really like the first dude like that. So when he offered me the correction, he wasn't wrong. I just wasn't able to receive it from him because I didn't want to submit to him. I wasn't
Because
open.
you wasn't feeling the messenger, even though the message was good. You wasn't feeling the messenger.
Correct. And so and
Damn.
there were reasons why that um uh I didn't want to fall in line under his leadership. And that's really what we're to me talking about, is falling under line under leadership in your submission as a woman. So when I found somebody that I wanted to be in that realm with, he was more straight to the point, more like a dagger in the middle of your forehead, right between the eyes, with the honest truth. And I was able to receive that, versus the one that was kind of hemming and hawing and kind of like, hey, you should do it maybe this way or what have you. There's a certain amount of strength for me that I need you to stand on business.
See, and you hit it. See, so one, I get where you're coming from, and that is a subset.
Yeah.
It's a section.
Mm-hmm.
But I know, again, my men's group, we had this conversation. I know many men married 37 years plus that have these same problems. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not an issue of submission. It's not a issue of being in it. To me, it's something else, and that's why, and that's the reason why I said before that that's where it's you need to fix yourself.
Right, but when you're doing that submission, and let me expand on that. Um, Me not receiving the message from the messenger was because I wasn't in a place to pick the appropriate messenger, right? There were reasons why I was with someone. So you're right on fixing yourself, because I would have never, in this body, I would have never selected him, as somebody that I would date, right? I would have had a different standard. I have a different point of view. And
Mm-hmm.
so once you get with yourself and understand who you are, understand your purpose, now it is a different thing with anybody, not just your spouse, your job, your employer, your friends. You're a different person, and you relate differently, and you don't take things as personal, hateful, or that people are out to get me. You view it now as love. Why? Is because this person before let me walk out the bathroom with tissue, stuck to my shoe, or hanging out the back of my pants. The other person said, hey, what I'm saying, let me turn around, let me grab that, or hey, just bringing attention to it. That's love. That's the real definition. If they're going to be hard on you and tell you about yourself, you have to view that as a love thing, not that it is they're trying to hurt you. That's empowering, that's betterment, right? And that's
That's my
the,
point.
if you're
But that's
not in
still
a
my point.
place to receive that, that's really your fault.
But that's again speaks to my point because what I'm hearing, let me make sure that I'm hearing it correctly, is that a woman needs to feel in a certain way in order to receive things, right?
Mm.
And about it, she like the real love person, really, really in my corner, a person I feel really, really safe with. I'm able to be vulnerable with stuff like that. So, but when you have that person and you still act in this manner,
But that's what, it's within you though, not about
that's
it's, yeah, that's what
right,
I mean.
right, right. That's the so I guess that's the point that I keep going back to because like I hear what you're saying, but it's not addressing my point of how do women fix themselves to overcome that issue when
Yeah.
it's a perception issue.
It's a
No,
perception issue. It's a
yeah,
challenge.
it's
It's
It's a
definitely
perception
a
issue. It's
challenge
a
for women for
perception issue.
sure.
It's a perception issue.
it's
Someone
it's
someone
For
can speak
sure.
it's
very
more
nicely
it's
and get
more of
cussing
an
you out.
emotional issue than a perception issue because we understand. But when you are in such a, if you allow your emotions to control you, again, it's going to feel like something. And so now you are emotionally led instead of looking at the logic of it, right? Processing your emotions, that okay, he said to you, hey babe, you know what I'm saying, did you brush your teeth? Your breath a little tart. We gonna be like, oh, and go into this shame thing. All you have to do is be like, oh dang, my bad. Is it? Cool. Go brush your teeth, right? Like it's simple as that, right? Go do what you need to do for the correction. So if you deal with the emotion and how you feel about it, then you can hear. So that's why emotional intelligence is really important. I would tell all of the ladies, like, get within yourself, right? Understand your emotions and learn how to process them.
I'm glad you said emotional intelligence because this is my perspective. I could be totally wrong. I might get cussed out by the world for saying this. But I personally believe that most women are emotionally illiterate because they allow their emotions to control them no matter what the emotions saying, not really analyzing what their emotions are. Just because you feel something doesn't mean it's real.
Yes,
Hey, shots
yes, yes,
fired.
yes, yes,
Shots
yes.
fired.
We're
Yes, I feel the
emotionally
same. I feel the
illiterate.
same way in that aspect. Women don't really, because they say women say that women are operating in their emotions more. So because of that, they have more emotional intelligence than men, right? And I'm not playing into the whole men versus women stuff,
It's not
but
about a man versus woman thing.
biological, yeah, biological understanding is important. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And to my knowledge, as a man, we process emotions way more. And not only do we process emotions way more, we're able to effectively not allow them to dictate how we respond and react to the things
Yeah.
that we encounter. You understand what I'm saying?
Because
Whereas
death is
where
an option
women,
if we don't.
it could, right, exactly. So it's up to us as men to, and it's like that saying, when you see an overly emotional man, right, it's considered a bad thing. Well, why is it considered a bad thing? Overly, that means a man, that means he's still struggling with a piece of him
You can't control
that
yourself.
hasn't, that he can't control himself. And those type of men are dangerous,
Very.
Hmm.
right? Those type of men are dangerous. Those type of men end up in prison and in jail and shooting up schools and things of that nature, because of that, because he's overly emotional. He can't really regulate that. And a woman overly emotional, she's not going to shoot up a school. You know what I'm saying? She's not
Right.
going to go try to fire off on somebody or none of that type of. She's just going to yell or operate in a way that is based off of her physical capabilities. Whereas a man, if he's overly emotional, he's fighting in the clubs. You understand what I'm saying? He's hearing certain things and he's upset about it. You know what I'm saying? He's moving in a way that is dangerous to his health in potentially, right? And I think that when women do not when women are not capable of understanding, biologically speaking, right? It's not a battle between men and women, right? I'm not doing this for clicks. I'm just being honest. At the end of the day, we're built differently, and we are men are more designed to deal with our emotions and process our emotions more than women. You know what I'm saying? And there's ways you
Okay.
can do better at it as a woman, but I think the challenge is a lot of women don't care to be better at that, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And let me just say, let me throw this in here real quick, Benet, and I'm gonna let you
Okay.
speak. I'm not saying that a woman needs to be like a man, because again, this ain't a woman man
Correct.
thing. This is about
Correct.
an emotion processing thing.
Correct.
Correct.
Where you know it tends to be societally acceptable for a woman to express her emotions in any way she needs to, wants to, desires to, and whatever she does, just let it go. She just do it. She's just having a hard day. This and this and this.
Mhm.
And I think where the problem is when it comes to, and I ain't talking about everyday regular life interactions with anybody, with the person that you consider your loved one, that the person that you said, okay, I'm spending the rest of my life with this person, the person that you say, okay, I'm never leaving this person ever. That for that person, for you to have an inability to change the way you operate in your emotion with him when he's uh, trying to convey how he feels, I think that in lies where some of the problem lies.
Yeah, well, I'll go back to what Antoine said about an overly emotional man is dangerous. To level the playing field, like you guys said, it's not about man versus women or men versus men. Anybody that's overly emotional is dangerous because a woman, I can use that same theory that you had. It is very dangerous for us to be overly emotional, right? This is why, we get into the state that we're in. We're overly emotional, you're going to cause problems in your relationship. You're overly emotional, you're going to, do some things that you shouldn't do, right? And that's dangerous to your livelihood and survival as a woman, period, right? Because you're not thinking clearly.
Real quick for clarity purposes, I meant and I should have did a better job at communicating. This is where I had a challenge with. I meant in the physical sense of a person of a man being dangerous, being overly emotional. But I do I do like where you're going with the idea of women are that way. Women are also dangerous, but in a different aspect of that danger. Please carry on.
Yeah,
I like
yeah,
that.
yeah, definitely. And thank you for that clarity. Because and I could still even say in a physical sense, if you're overly emotional, let's say that you are lonely, right? And you're feeling certain kind of way. So, okay, you're gonna go put your fucking dress on, right? And go out to
Yep,
the club, right? And put yourself in a place,
that's a fact.
Right.
right, that is
Right.
going to
Different way
be
of physicality.
right.
Right.
And now you're doing 6 shots, and now you're in the bathroom getting back shots, right? Like,
Right,
or
Right.
something could definitely happen to you, so we and this is why I say we have to learn how to process our emotions, because women handle, I'll say, the better of our emotions and how we process it is when we're backed into a corner as far as survival, right? If something needs to be done, we're getting ready to lose our house, or we need bills, we can push that feeling to the side and logically do what we need to do to get to the money or get to the survival part. But once that threat of survival is gone, that's our biggest challenge. So outside of that, now I can relax into the silly shit, right? But which means the uncontrolled me. I could be the little girl, unrefined, whatever, because I got somebody that is making sure that I'm safe and I feel protected. So now I could be the brat. Well, sis, that's not how you maintain the household, right? You're
right,
gonna have to learn how to process those feelings and emotions um, better. And how I got that is from men. A man told me that I needed to learn how to care less. You care too much, B. And at first, I'm like, what are you talking about? And he said, you talk too much in your feelings. I would always say, well, I feel like, or, I think. Well, do you think or do you know? Right. He was very on top of stop processing it through your feelings first, right? Well, I feel like that was wrong. Well, is it wrong? Or you know what I mean? And so if we start processing our feelings and getting to an emotional intelligent place, on both sides, now we're level, now we're equally yoked, now we can hear each other, now we can help each other, now there isn't going to be that you got to tell me something 6 times. I heard you the first time, right? And I'm not taking it in an emotional state that you're picking on me, or you're displeased with the thing that you brought to my attention. That's it, not me in general. And now you want to go find somebody else. No, I just want my dinner at 6 o'clock. You know what I mean? Or I just want whatever the thing I'm bringing to your attention. And like you said, Bryan, I am in agreement. You do have to fix yourself, because I was not in this place until I did that, until I got with me. So it's not about them. It's a
Right.
whether it's a man or a woman, women are this or that or whatever. Okay, cool, bro. What's going on with you that you keep selecting these types of chicks, right? Sis, okay, all men ain't this. Okay, sis, what's going on with you that you are attracting or selecting this? We got to sit down with ourselves and really work with ourselves. Once we do that, man or woman, now we're on a even playing field. Now you can really get into the business of building. So,
Yes, I agree wholeheartedly. And what you said about the in danger, that was what I said in the men's group when we were having this discussion. I was like, to me, it seems that until a woman is on the precipice of destruction, and it ain't got to be physical destruction, it could be the
yeah.
destruction of a marital bond,
Yeah.
destruction of a friendship, destruction of whatever, is
Mm-hmm.
when they finally say, okay, let me stop tripping, let me get myself together.
Right.
Sometimes,
Yeah.
sometimes they
So,
need that chaos. Sometimes they need that chaos, and if they're that emotionally charged about that decision, they're going to keep going, even
mm-hmm.
even if it ruins them. Women can literally push away all the people that really value them, love them, and all that type of stuff. And again, the reason why I'm saying this is because I wanted to piggyback on what both of you guys were saying is. eh, Because I don't want nobody to overlook the fact that we're dealing with ourselves, right?
Yeah.
With bettering
That's what it's all
ourselves
about. It ain't
first.
about the
It,
other.
it,
Yeah.
it ain't about the other. It's about because Brian, you said it. You know what I'm saying? Benet, you said it. It's really about dealing with ourselves first. And I want to also add to that piece is knowing the trauma that you encountered that got you thinking, that
Woo.
got your perception looking at things the way that you do. You
Mm-hmm.
understand what I'm saying? And if we're not willing to address the trauma that got me operating the way I'm operating, then we're looking at we're going to be looking at things from an aspect of surface level only, and we're not going to
Mm-hmm.
be able to really address because I like what the gentleman told you, Benet, when you said he told you to an extent. I like what he said when he told you you got to stop doing things this way, right?
Yeah.
To an extent. I like the part I like where is that he brought that to your attention on the challenges that you potentially can have or are having, which is why he
Mm-hmm.
even brought that to your attention. The component that's a challenge for me, right, is are women even capable, right, of thinking like a man? we have
I
we
don't
have
want a
these
woman to think
movies
like a man.
and here's the thing, right? We got people out here telling women to think like a man, right? They're making
Mm-hmm.
movies on it, you know what I'm saying? All types of stuff on having women
Mhm.
think like a man. And again, I want you to be in your feminine space, right?
Yeah.
And for you to be in that feminine space, there's things that I comprehend and that I understand and that I can articulate that you can't do the same as me, and that's okay. That's why I need you, you need me. You know, what I'm saying? Or I want you and you want me. You understand what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And we can kind of balance each other out because there's aspects of me that you enjoy, that you embrace, that you love, and vice versa. And I think when a man is telling a woman to think like a man, that's dangerous, right? Because
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
again,
agree.
she's going to be running into a brick wall thinking that, you know what I'm saying? I can't figure this out. I can't figure this out because I'm supposed to be thinking like him. I'm supposed to be thinking like him, but I can't because you're not really designed to do that. You understand what I'm saying? Hence the reason why good leadership is so important. My job is to communicate, like Brian said, in a way that my audience can take in what's being said. You understand what
Yeah.
I'm saying? And if she's not taking it in and she's receiving it in a way of what, or is he trying to talk down to me? Is he trying to, you know, because you could have took it that way. You
Yeah.
could have
Yeah.
took it from
Yeah.
a perspective of, you know, why is he talking to me like that when he already knows I can't think like a man. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Nor is it your job to even think like us. It's just your job to sit and listen and take in versus trying to fix us and fix why we feel the way we feel about what's being what your actions are. Focus more so on the idea of what internally I need to do to make sure my external relationships have a fighting chance, if that makes sense.
That's right there. That's 100% right there.
Yeah, and I think um what's missing in that, I understand what people are trying to say when they say they want women to think like a man. It is like it took a man to bring something to my attention. And so, like you said, to bring in that was his thought, right? And
Right.
so now I have to be able to take that thought and have it resonate within myself to have an application. So that is, in essence, thinking like a man. You know what I mean? You're getting that concept, right, from a man. And now, this is what you're supposed to, do with it, right? Receive it, work on it, or, and put that into action. So I think people sometimes have a way of trying to express it without that clarity, because like I said, for me, I'm living proof of that. When a man told me something, that wasn't my original thought. I'm a woman. I am gonna feel first. I'm always gonna be in my feelings, right? But it was a fresh idea from a man to say, B, you need to care less. You need to be careless. And I'm like, wait, risky? He's like, no, like care less. If you're running around trying to take care of everybody else, but you are not taking care of you, you can't take care of me. I understand that you may have the desire to do so, but you are not even taking care of you. And honestly, that's a problem for me, right? And so, um, I think that's the thing, is taking the idea or concept that a man is trying to portray and process it and apply it. That's the more thinking of like a man type thing, because as a woman, I'm constantly in a battle with my emotions, right? I feel like I've mastered it to a certain degree, for a few years now, but there are times my natural uh way of being, right, or I may revert to being emotional. But the thing about it is, the difference is I will be aware, self-aware. "Oh, okay, be calm down. You're just being emotional. Let's process this. Like practice what you learned, because you can see the benefits from thinking differently. And men think differently. Like like I said, I have no desire to think like y'all. I love the way that I am, but
Right.
my desire is to listen to what you said. Like you said, it's a leadership thing, and I think I said that in the beginning. That's what we're really talking about, leadership. And we have to be open to leadership. That's just that. And the leadership is, we get our femininity from a man, we get a lot of things from you, right? And so we've been told the opposite, that we just have been in this pretty package and we are this and that, and which we are. But if you're not effectively managing your emotions, your relationship, like, you're going to be useless, to that man, right? You're a warm body and somebody he can snuggle up to when he feels like it, but you don't have a purpose in his life, and you don't even have a purpose in your own life, because you're just out of control, and that's a definite risk.
So there's two things I see slightly different. First part, like the thinking like a man. Like I'm not a proponent of a woman thinking like a man, but I'm a
Right.
proponent because, like, first of all, there's men that don't think like men. So
That's facts. Because they was raised by women who don't know how to think like a man.
yeah. So what
That's a
what I
perspective.
always try to tell people, because I like to be a straight shooter, and I like to discern so people understand the differences and get the nuance of things, is utilizing more logic when you are thinking,
Yeah.
and that's even when you're thinking about your emotions. Use a logical process to verify that emotional reaction that you had.
Right. But then
So
that's coming from a male perspective, right? So we
right.
have to take that concept and be
You
able
let me finish
to
what I was saying
utilize
though.
it.
You let
Okay.
me finish.
All right, go ahead. I was just asking for clarity. That was my clarity that I'm trying to,
You
before.
got to ask a question, not make a
You get the
statement.
application.
Yeah. Yeah.
For clarity purposes, you
For
gotta.
clarity
Yeah,
purposes.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
got you though. I see
Yeah,
what.
go ahead, B.
All right.
Go
So
ahead, B.
you the utilization of logic is important. That's the reason why we have a brain. And people always say, if I use your heart, your heart is nothing there but to pump blood. Everything is in your damn head. Everything is in your head. Your emotions come from your head. Everything comes from your brain. Utilize the extent of it to verify the things that you feel, the things that you think. That's one of the things that I just think that all people,
Mhm.
men and women, it's not about thinking like, man, you have a better logical process. If you think about something and the outcome isn't positive, or the outcome isn't what you thought it would be, that should tell you, hey, my logic is a little screwed up. I need to tweak my algorithm.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And that's the part that I feel, one, that we need to work on. And then the other part is, I hear the leadership turn. And don't get me wrong, leadership is important.
Hmm.
I never say leadership is not important. But what's more important is self accountability. Like, you can't be a good follower or a leader if you're not self accountable. If you're not
Right.
able to recognize what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong. And then I say right and wrong because right and wrong is based upon individual perspective.
Hmm.
You know, it right and wrong is subjective, totally. So you got to make a decision on, okay, what kind of right do I want to be, and what kind of wrong do I want to be?
Hmm.
And then
Yeah.
if you've already got somebody that you say, okay, I got this person, and I feel this person, and I can be with this person, and this, then get out of what you was 10 years ago, 5 years ago, and get
Right.
into who y'all need to be today, so y'all can be the best.
Right.
It
Right.
that's that would be extending grace back.
Yeah. No, and like I said, I don't disagree with you at all. And that's why I said it levels a playing field about going through emotional intelligence, because now you're dealing with two people that are in like-minded, right? We talk about being like-minded individuals. Well, we both need to be emotionally intelligent, right? And process things in a certain way. We would have less issues because no one is in danger, right? No one is overly sensitive or emotional, so everyone's thinking clearly. So when I'm saying something to you, um, you're not going to take it as a blow to your masculinity. This is just this, right? I'm not going to take it as a blow to my femininity. This is just this that we're talking about. And I think that is definitely a key, is to practice emotional intelligence. And the only way you're going to do that, like, you got to get with yourself, right?
You
And like
got
you
to
said,
get with yourself.
and you got to be real. And um I think it's healthy to ask for feedback. Now, as a woman, as a man, he may not give it to you, but I've asked for feedback, and that changed me as well because I can be perceived or I think that I'm doing this, but his perception of really what I am doing um, is all that mattered in that sense, right? Because if my job was to please him, no matter what I think, if he's not receiving it that way and I'm not coming off that way, I need to know that, right? And some things that he said initially, I'm like, you crazy as hell. I'm the most loving, kind person. But in all actuality, I was not. I am that person, but I didn't present that to him,
Well,
right?
you was
I
that person
didn't,
to you, just wasn't that
yeah,
person to him.
exactly, right? I didn't show up as my best self. He did receive like the worst of me, but I was not self-aware. I was in this bubble that, oh, I got it together, I'm this and I'm that. But again, how was he receiving me? And when I got that feedback and I really sat with myself and was honest, again, process my feelings about it. It was a blow to my emotions or my ego. And I really pinpointed examples of how I was selfish or how I was not as loving or as kind as I know that I could be. As a woman, I'm going to tell you, we kick our own ass once we come to a certain realization within ourselves. Um, I had a in the friend group, Twan, Lovejoy was acting kind of out when she saw Prince. And what he did was he removed his presence. He didn't get mad at her. He didn't, whatever. He removed her presence. And she said, the mere fact that he removed his presence changed my behavior because I started thinking like, what did I do? Right. And so, as a sidebar, as you would say, that is something that I've experienced. And men, if you have not tried it, listen, your presence is our goal, right? We want you around. So when you
For
remove
sure.
your presence,
For sure.
we go into super introspection and like
For
what
sure.
happened here.
That's with fellow men as well.
Yeah, right?
For sure. For sure. That's facts.
Exactly. And so, but I think sometimes men, because you guys offer a certain amount of grace, back to the topic, you don't remove your presence. You try to practice more empathy. You try to do other things that ultimately is going to frustrate you and not get you the results, right? But the minute you remove your presence or you really stand in your masculinity in that sense, um, it quickens with it. Like, I can't even express to you how quick that correction is versus you going back and forth for 45 minutes about, whatever the issue is.
I never argue.
And what she said, was that interaction alone changed how she interacts with her, current relationships and people, right? And I just want to say, as to stamp that, as a woman, again, when you guys remove your presence from us, it is, and vice versa. If and I say the masculinity, right? If a man, a real man removes his presence, or a real woman removes her presence from you,
It'll be missed.
you're a mess, right? Because that's the goal, is you want to be in the presence of femininity, you want to be in
Yeah.
the presence of masculinity. And so the absence of that will cause so much immediate correction. You don't even have to say it, because now you've gone down the list and say, you know what, I could be more loving, I could be more kind. What did he say, or what did she say? All right, I'm gonna step up to the plate and start doing these things. So yeah, I definitely, just like I said, if we're in an emotionally intelligent place, we level the playing field. Now we're on building, not tit for tat competition. It's a beautiful place to be.
But there's a prerequisite to get to an emotionally intelligent place. And that
Yes,
prerequisite is
self
you
awareness.
must mitigate your ego.
Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
If you
Hmm.
do not control your ego, you cannot be emotionally intelligent.
And that's what I said, right? It was a shot to my ego, right?
That's
Just because
facts.
you said
That's
something, it's a
facts.
shot to the ego. So it is a death to the ego. And I think this is the part where sometimes men are better at is putting that ego to the side. And when I say that, like,
Sure.
you guys are more submissive than us naturally. And when I say naturally, meaning you understand your role and your position is protect and provide, right? You understand that
You
there's going to
understand
be
hierarchy.
grace, right? There's a grace and there's mercy to be given. So you go to the to the mall knowing you're going to be there for 4 hours, even though you don't want to be,
You
right?
take the
That's
trash out, even though you don't
right.
want to take trash out, even though you've been watching the game and the trash is full.
Right.
That part.
And exactly. So,
That part. The grace is
and
always there.
yeah, it's always there. And then, we can give you a list of 10 things. You guys will get 9 out of those 10 things done. Give us a list of 5. You lucky to get 2, or 1 done.
And
And
then
that
you'll brag
one
about that
done
love forever.
right.
That
And
part.
that one done in the correct way,
That
right?
part.
There may be an excuse for it, and we are blind to the fact that, man, this man did out of the 10 things, he did all 9, and not 9 just half-assed, but to his best ability, right? And so, we got some work, but once you die to that ego and you see that submission is not a belittling thing, right? Relaxing into who you naturally are as a woman or as a man, that is pride. That's power. That's like the place that you should be in. Your ego don't even come into play into that. Like, it's irrelevant, at that point.
And it's crazy because it's crazy how submission has gotten such a bad rap.
Yeah.
Where really all it is just surrendering to a will. And we all surrender to a will.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
That's
And
facts.
it's a I think it's a scarcity thing, though, right? We've been conditioned to think about ourselves. What am I getting out of it? What am I getting out of it? Instead of leaning forward, right? To say, what can I give? When you're in that kind of energy, um, and you are aware, you're going to give to when I say a limited capacity, you'll know what to give and how much to give. So there's no fear of ever being taken advantage of, right? Because you are aware of the amount that needs to be given, right? And you understand, as you give, you will receive. It may not be from that person, but now I don't have to worry about me, right? In that sense of what I can get and grab. I'm just going to give, and I know that it's coming back to me, right? So it just changes your whole thing. And if we get out of the me, and take, and get or lean more into giving freely, that changes, everything as well.
Right. I agree with that. Mr. Javius, you've been quiet over there.
I just
Yeah, we're gonna have to pronounce your name correctly now from this point on.
Exactly.
yeah. I'm gonna put it on the next time, Javius, for sure. It's processing a lot of things that for me that is near and dear to me. You know what I'm saying? Because when you
All right.
Did we
So,
lose you?
because way you guys can you guys hear me?
intermittently.
Hello, hello.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. You good?
Okay, you hear me now?
Hmm.
Yes.
Okay, so uh, the idea of addressing the ego, right, is so important. Um,
Dang, I want to hear this too. And you're breaking up again, Twan.
because
All
the
right. Well,
reason
we'll
harm you.
start over, man.
Can you hear me?
Start over. Yeah.
It seems
We hear
like
you.
when you say closer or something, maybe the connection is better. Maybe not.
Maybe not. All right. So, but I know. I think I understand where he was going on the ego piece, and and this. One thing I find interesting is if you listen to people in most spaces, um, there tends to be a thought that when it comes to ego, men are the predominant uh, utilizers or owners of ego.
Mm.
But I would disagree with that statement.
Yes, yes, yes. Hence, this is why, like I said, that's a part of that emotional intelligence. And so I'm glad that you brought that up, is because you that's that processing center. You have to die to your ego. You'll eventually come to that conclusion, but I'm glad that we're covering it. As a woman, I had to deal with my ego, right? And we have an inflated ego, right? We've been told we're the prize, you're the princess, you ain't got to do this or that. You
That's
don't
why you
have
think you're
to
always
be right. We're always right. We don't have to refine ourselves in any way. Any man wants you and all of that. So there was a, a super conceitedness that we had based on the fact that we were just female. And, yes, that's all lovely and sugary and spicy or whatever, but that's that's not the catalyst, right?
right.
That's when we talked about having a refined woman or a real woman, she has gone through that refining process, right? She understands, she's had a death to the ego, because that's the only way that you're going to be able to do this. Because if you're still in your ego, anything I say to you, or a man or anybody, your boss, your aunties, your cousins, your daddy, anybody says, you're not in a place to hear it
Right.
at all, and so you got to get over yourself, sis, right? You cute and fine and all that or whatever, but how is your ego, right? Have you had a death to your ego? Is that the place that you're in is why you can't receive what is being said?
So I tell you, I went to a Lead Like Jesus seminar, right? I don't know if you know Ken Blanchard.
Mm-hmm.
So he does a seminar here in San Diego, and I went to it. Because the servant leadership thing, and I'm big on servant leadership. And he said something that I found very interesting, and I utilize it, and I tell my teams uh, to utilize it. I think it works well. He says one of the things he does is when he wakes up, he has an egomaniacs anonymous meeting. You know, he's like, the last time I had an inflated ego was, and he'll go through when the last time his ego got the best of him.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that helps Primal to help be a little less egocentric for the remainder of the day. And I
Mm-hmm.
find that interesting, but it does have some utility,
Yeah.
because it's crazy. Once you identify where you did something wrong, you're conscious not to go down that path again, at least in
Yeah.
the short term.
Yeah. And if you want to change, because again, people are aware of it, but they don't want to let it go, right? You know that you act a fool when you're drinking. So why, bruh, why are you still drinking? Sis, why do you
Exactly.
you know? Well, and like Twan said, if you are not addressing that trauma, then you're operating from just a really unsafe space, right? And a really a destructive space.
And that's the beautiful thing about addressing trauma as well. Is when you address trauma, you're less likely to move down that traumatic line of
Mm,
thought.
mm-hmm.
When
You
you
know,
address it, correct. Can you guys hear
exactly.
me?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
you sound good.
We're good. You're good, man. You're shining. You got to
Yeah.
go behind you, man.
Yeah.
Okay. That was my fault. So I figured it out. I was on the other side of the house, and I was so far away from the Wi-Fi router. It was the router. The signal was trying to go through the walls and past the stairs, and
Got you.
it was creating causing a ruckus. So now I know. Stay by the router. Um, and go from there. But no, you guys are correct. When you do address the trauma and you do attack the ego, that's where the most growth can take place. Because a lot of the reasons why we're doing the things that we do, our perception is the way it is, that we receive things the way that we're receiving things, it has to do with our ego. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I think me personally, I can't speak for everybody, but me personally, I try my best to um, ask myself, is my ego involved in this decision?
Mm.
Mm.
Whether it's parenting my sons, you know what I'm saying, or my daughter, or in a relationship, or dealing with dealing with friends, family, all that type of other stuff. I try to ask myself, is my ego involved in this relationship? You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
In this conversation, or in this piece of whatever I'm dealing with. And I think that that's where, if we focus internally on dealing with the person we created over all these years and over all these relationships, right?
Mhm.
If we deal with that version of us, we have the potential of getting to the real version of us, the healed
Ooh.
version of us, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I do want to say something. I don't necessarily think you need to kill ego. I think ego has value in other spaces. Like ego is important when it comes to confidence. You know,
For sure, for
you,
sure. It
you,
has its
e-
place, if you will.
ego has its place in
For
your life.
sure.
It
Yeah.
should not be your entire life.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
No, I
Yeah.
think I think
Yeah.
that that's an important understanding to have, is to understand it does have a place in your life. It just doesn't always have a place in your life,
Right.
Yeah.
if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
And Twan, I want to take the time to, commend you and congratulate you because, you know, we've been friends now for I don't know, 3 years or so, or
I
plus, I
believe
guess.
so.
And I remember our very, very, very first conversation. And I said that to you like, Twan, you are so dope, man. You just got to get this little bit part down. We talked about the ego, and he was like, "Man, okay, I can respect what you're coming from, but like, I ain't trying to hear you." And so, over the years, I'm so happy to have watched you transition into the place that you're at. Like, that's real growth, and I to hear you say to deal with the ego and the person that we've built up over the years. I commend anybody that has gone through that process of refining, right? Of really trying to get to their best, true, authentic self, peeling back the layers of other people. I was telling somebody the other day that you got to look at yourself when they say your body is the temple, right? Think of your body as a house, right? And when you were a child, you're that house or that room that people bring and put in store stuff, right? You got stuff that is not even yours in this whole temple, right? And so how could you see yourself, right? Like, how do you get to know yourself? How do you get to find out what you like, right? You don't like how this clutter is. You're full of other people's ideas, thoughts, and beliefs. When you sit with yourself and say, okay, I need to get rid of the pack rat stuff, I need to clear out my house,
Stop hoarding.
right? Right?
Mhm.
Exactly. You start putting out these other ideas. What starts to happen is the clarity. Literally, it's clean. And now you can actually see. You now can say, you know what? I know the TV is going to fit perfectly there. You don't even got to measure it. You can, like, you see it, you put it there, and it's placed and it's perfect because now you're in tune with yourself. So, um, I just can appreciate the growth. And it's definitely inspiring to see how far you have grown and where you're going. Like, I just wanted to just to say that. So,
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I think it has a lot to do with when you come across information and you willing to stand on business about the information that you come across, and then you come to the realization of it's okay it's okay to welcome other perspectives on things.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? It's okay to welcome somebody else's version of, because ultimately, ultimately, right? And on the group call from yesterday, I was telling Carter, I was just like, man, like my challenge with the discussion that we had yesterday was everybody is saying the same thing. You know what I'm saying? On the I don't you weren't on the call, but on
Yeah.
in the group call yesterday, everybody was saying the same thing about religion and things of that nature, and then the I am and all that stuff. Everybody was saying the same thing, but they was basing it off of their islands.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? They're basing it off of their islands, and we have to understand that your version of your islands are welcomed.
Yeah.
It's a safe space for you to bring your version of your, because your version is not my version, but that doesn't mean it's not valid. It doesn't mean it doesn't have some truth in it,
Right.
right? And I think the idea of trying to convince somebody of, well, this is the way things are and you got to do things this way, and I think that can present challenges, because if you've never had to practice doing things this way, right, you're going to suck at that.
Mhm.
It's like playing football for the first time, right? You're going to really suck at it at the very beginning, but after year one you're not, after year two you're not. And I think that if you could create the habit of seeing the weeds in the grass,
Mm.
right, if you can create the habit of seeing the weeds in the grass, it'll make you more effective when dealing with communication and dealing with our relationships, because weed next to grass, when you looking at grass in your front yard, they damn near look alike. You got to really
Mhm.
look, you got to really
Mhm.
zoom in and really look at what you know what I'm saying, what's there, because a lot of people are mowing weeds and they're thinking that it's
Mhm.
grass.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of people don't know no better. um and I think for me, that's what helped me out was, well, shit, I got this information, right? um and I'm gonna stand on that information and stand on that perspective. But your perspective is also welcomed,
Mhm.
and it's not it's not so much that I'm trying to change your perspective to my perspective,
Mhm.
right? But more so on figuring out, and I like what Brian said earlier, figuring out your audience.
Mhm.
You can't just verbally throw up on people.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you got to fall back and say certain things and then get some feedback on see if what you're saying is being understood for how you're
Right.
trying to relay it.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? And a lot of times I would, I would be against that. Like, I'm standing on this and this is what it is. You don't know what you talk about. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah. It
because
was.
I know, because I ultimately knew that what I was saying was right and truthful, right?
Yeah.
It was truthful. However,
At your lens.
from my lens,
Mhm.
right? From my lens, not from their lens, because
Mhm.
they never heard something like this, or they never had to address something like this. They never could comprehend something like this, because nobody ever was just like, okay, well, this we never, and I'm going back to the empathy thing. Um, we never we never incorporate um biological, I don't want to say trends, but biological habits or biological things that we do into the equation of why things are being done the way that we're doing things.
Yeah.
And I think that in order to get a solid understanding of the person that you're dealing with, you have to understand multiple different factors, whether it's biology, whether it's environment,
Yeah.
whether it's somebody who started the process of healing.
Mhm.
There's multiple different things that we have to pay attention to be able to understand the listener and the messenger.
Mhm.
You understand what I'm saying? So that way we're not on the defense when we're hearing the message,
Right.
if that
Right.
makes sense.
I
Right.
And
mean,
I think that we practice that. I think as men we practice that in such a way because ultimately, um, we like peace, right? We desire peace. We don't desire chaos. Chaos is something that we don't really try to thrive in, nor is it something
right.
that we want to go through life trying to entertain. You understand what I'm saying? And I think that a lot of women have been brainwashed to believe that there has to be a little chaos in the relationship. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
There has to be something that we constantly overcome in the relationship for it to thrive. And it's something that where I'm at now in my life. I don't really believe um, that's something that is a prerequisite, if you will, to a healthy communication.
Well, I think chaos is inevitable.
It is inevitable.
You just don't want it intentional.
Correct. It's like ego. It has its place
Yeah,
in our life, right?
yeah.
It
Chaos
just
is
doesn't
inevitable. Like
always
you're
have
gonna
to be
have
there.
conflict is inevitable. Like there's no
Right.
relationship that doesn't have some type of conflict. Like if you disagree on what you're gonna eat that day,
Mhm.
it's conflict. The thing is intentional conflict. I'm about to do this on purpose because I want to push. If I push them this way, see, now you're going too far with it. You know,
Yeah,
uh,
but I would say even not so much even intentional conflict. Like I said, for me and Twine, we were on opposite ends of the spectrum in our very first conversation, and
right.
we talked for hours about it. And I was in a place of of I understand where he is, back to the empathy. So what I allowed was space for that, right? Meaning my old self would have been wrote Antoine off as, oh, okay, this, that, and the third. And listen, I don't even want to hear anything he ever has to say, right? But I was in a place that I understood why he felt that way, right? And so the opposition now wasn't so much opposition, it was understanding, it wasn't conflict. It was, okay, I'm gonna plant this seed because one day it's gonna rain. And I will be, he'll come to a certain understanding. So I'm just going to show love, right? And I think that is something that we're lacking is the space for people to be where they're at. We don't want to drop seeds and know that there it's going to rain one day, right? We want it right now. We want to be right now. We want people to change because we drop some jewels right now, but that's not the case, right? We
And
have to
also,
allow space.
and sometimes just because you drop a seed don't mean anything gonna grow.
Yeah, right,
Facts.
right, and
Facts.
right, and right, and
You got to know where you dropping it at. Are you
You gotta
dropping
know
it
where
on
you're dropping it
cement
at
or are you
too.
dropping it on soil?
right,
That's facts.
If you drop a
and
seed on a rock, you just gonna have that seed on that rock
Correct.
forever.
It's gonna be a seed on a rock. It's gonna be
right,
a seed on a rock.
exactly
Straight up.
until the wind blows or something happens. But if it doesn't, still, if you're dropping seed, and that's why again there's emotional intelligence. Like when we talk about these calls, sometimes your presence, removing your presence is what will cause the growth, not you necessarily dropping the seed, right?
Correct.
Because you don't need to even engage in this. Like you're at a someone could be at a different understanding, and so I'm not even going to try to make water this rock right. This is
Right.
not soil, right? That's not what it's where it's at. And so I think that if we get more in an empathetic understanding and lead in love, lead, and the only way to lead in love is to have grace and empathy. Again, where what's the problem? There's not going to be real, when I say problems, the conflict. I don't even like that word conflict. There's always going to be an opposite. Hey, what you want to eat tonight? I want tacos. Oh no, I want Chinese food. Is that really a conflict? It's just really what we're what I'm expressing that I want or
It
like
can be
now.
conflict.
It
It can
can
be
be a
conflict for
conflict.
sure.
It can definitely be
It
conflict.
can, right.
Keep it
It
funky. It
can
can
be
be
a
depending on who you're talking
conflict.
to. It can be a conflict.
Yeah.
True, but is it when I'm talking about two healed individuals, and if I asked you, Tom, what do you want to eat tonight? And you say tacos, and I can not say nothing and just give that to you, or I can be in a space that I can say, okay, I don't know, I was kind of feeling Chinese, right? And if you say, nah, I'm still feeling tacos, well, if in this in our relationship that's what I do, or I'm going to cook for you, all right, this is what he wants. And if I offered a
Right.
different suggestion and he's like, no, I really want tacos, okay, I'm going to do that. There's no conflict within me, right? Within us
Right.
checking or expressing ourselves. That's what I'm trying to say.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Some
So you
people
take
will make that
it
a
personally,
conflict.
and I'm talking about the situation, like
Yeah,
putting anybody in the situation, not personal.
yeah,
Mm-mm.
yeah. So, yeah, no, so um, I'm really enjoying this conversation. I think that this is something. These are the types of conversations that have to happen between men and women to get to an understanding, to get to a place, right?
I agree.
Again, everything is not personal. People say everything's personal if you're a person, right? But not in the
Everything's personal if you're a person.
right. But it's you don't have to be
That's wild.
controlled by it. That's the big
Right.
thing. If you are poised, in control, self-aware, you have discernment, you have all of those things, your life in general takes on a different air about itself, right? You're less likely to be easily moved or swayed in a certain way, on the negative, right? You're not going to be easily angered. You're not going to treat people disrespectfully, even if in the face of disrespect, right? You're going to kind of look at people like, okay, they just don't know no better. You know what I mean? But I know better. So this is how I'm going to conduct myself. Right. And so mastery of self is a huge component. And
It's everything. So one thing I tell people, I say, when anybody says anything to you, you have a choice. You
mm,
have the right to determine whether it's a compliment or a criticism.
mm,
It could be anything,
mm-hmm,
and you can take it as a compliment or criticism. And
mm-hmm,
and we, based upon previous experiences, we tend to react to things we've seen before the way we reacted in the past,
mm-hmm,
instead of realizing that the person I was 10 years ago ain't the person I am today.
mm-hmm.
So why should I react, and why should I take that as a criticism, like they're trying to offend me?
Right.
Like my brother, like at my 50th, my brother was speaking, and he made a comment that he said he listens to me, and my dad said he lying, and everybody laughed, you
Mm,
know, and my brother took it. He was offended. My brother's
Yeah.
feelings was hurt. He's like, I can't believe you said that in front of all these people. And I sat there and said, hey man, you ain't got to take it that way.
mm-hmm,
Like you could have just took
Correct.
it as a joke. You could have just took it as a joke. Even if he was telling the truth, you what does it matter to you?
mm-hmm.
I mean, like, let's keep it real. You don't listen to me, so it ain't like you
Yeah.
lying.
And that's why I laughed at it because hey, pops ain't gonna just blow smoke up your ass. You know what I'm saying? You
Exactly.
be
He ain't
joking
blowing
and
the
stuff,
smoke.
but there's a reason why he said he ain't listening. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
He
But instead
lying.
of looking
You
at
know what I mean?
anything else, he
Yeah.
wanted to get offended by it.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
I was
Because
like,
he was
come on.
already in that space already.
Yeah.
He already was in that space already. So that way, anything that came off as anything other than what
What he
he wanted
expected.
to
Yep.
feel, it was going to be, you know what I'm saying? It was going to be, and that's why I try to, instead of trying to focus on leading with love, I try to lead with respect,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because I want to respect your version of
What's
things.
respect?
Ooh.
RESPECT, find out what you mean to me. Let's
I
go to the definition.
did.
Let's go to the.
So, what is respect? Because I had this conversation yesterday with my neighbor, a good brother, because he said, respect matters to him a lot, and then I just asked him, I said, man, what is respect?
Mm,
Because I'm like, to me, respect of things is one thing, but when it comes to people, I don't think respect is as big of a thing as we make it.
mm-hmm.
Because he was like he wanted to be respected by his wife, and I said, okay,
Mm-hmm.
that makes sense. I said, but why does that matter? I'm like, because if your wife trusts you, if your wife loves you, and if your wife is agreeable with you,
She
like
respects you by default.
those are the things that matter.
Mm,
Because I'm big on root cause analysis. Sometimes we put a macro term on something,
mm-hmm.
and it could be just one leg of the macro that's messed up, but now the whole thing is messed up, instead of focusing on, okay, what are the real things that really matter? And
Right.
that's why respect to me, it doesn't really matter to on a people perspective, because love, trust, and agreeableness, those matter.
Yeah.
Because
And
if I got those three things, respect is there.
yeah, and I like how you put that. It's like sometimes we'll
Okay.
use it, we'll use a blanket word, but
Yes.
we haven't really dug deep and defined it for ourselves or
What's the
really
tenets?
looked at, okay, when you're saying respect, let's clean the plate. What are you really saying? What is the thing, right? Because
Right.
usually you could separate that and say, well, she doesn't respect me because when I do this or say this or whatever, that is what you're equating to respect. All the other
Exactly.
things is that, right?
Oh, okay.
Right,
I see where you're
right.
going with that.
Yeah.
So peel back these layers and have a better understanding or definition from it. And this is why I say in the part for male and female, we have to listen to each other because we will say something and that it is there's still layers underneath that. Well, I
Right.
don't feel like you love me. What you mean I don't love you? I pay for the house, the car, this, that, and the third. What are you talking about? Right? This is love. Well, no, but you don't compliment me. You mean that one thing? So you took the overall that I don't
Exactly.
love you, but this
Me not
one
complimenting
thing,
means I don't love you.
right? So we can't just, and we're accustomed to doing that because again we haven't processed our emotions, right? We haven't really started being that self-aware to specifically target a problem. And the more that you have practiced doing that, you won't use a blanket statement, say I don't feel like you love me. You'll say, hey, how come you don't, I like to be complimented, or you're going to get directly to the issue. How come you don't ever say that I look nice or whatever, versus I don't think you love me. It
Or
is
you just say is, since you don't compliment me, that makes me feel less love from you.
right, and that's what I was going to say. So then there's another layer to that. So, and this is why we have to listen and be able to step out of our ego and say, okay, what's being said here, right? You got to kind of put on your psychologist hat and say, okay, this was the blanket statement. Cool. That's like level one. Let's turn the page. Okay, so
Exactly.
how does this make
Right,
you
right, right.
feel?
Right,
Right? How
right.
does this make you feel? And when you feel this way, how are you acting? How does it impact your life, right? Because then now when we take the time to kind of do that, when she's slamming shit around the house, right? Well, if she said, well, I don't feel love from you because you haven't complimented me, so this is how I act, or give me an example of when, you can start tying it together when, oh
Yeah.
yeah, you know what, she did cut her hair that day and she was looking nice, but man, I had a hard day from work, and she slamming stuff around to get my attention. This is how she reacts when she is feeling this, right? Because
Right.
I've asked for an example, I asked her to, kind of express herself. So now when you see her slamming shit around, it's a pause, right? To say, okay, let me look at her hair. Okay, that's different. Okay, what is she wearing? Okay, let me go ahead and go, smack her on the butt or whatever, or give her a kiss. Say, hey,
Right.
you're looking good today. Mood changed, right? All because we took
Immediately.
2 seconds, right?
Right.
Mood change, right?
Right.
From it went from sugar to
That's funny.
from shit
That's
to sugar
funny.
instead of from sugar to shit, right?
That's
Yeah.
So
funny.
we have to take that time to study one another and really that's why I say for me and my future relationship, covenant is more important than the title, right? Meaning we're going to have an understanding, right? I'm going to express to you really what's happening with me, and I would want you to be able to receive what I'm saying and recognize, because I'm not always going to be emotionally in check, right? I may be out of sorts, but if you're taking care of me, I need you to see that I'm in distress, right?
Right.
And if you and be able to say, okay, she ain't really tripping, right? In which a lot of times you guys are able to discern, okay, what's your real problem? Okay, what's going on? You need some love, you need a
Because we
hug,
have
you need
better
this.
emotional intelligence.
Right. You have the emotional
Yeah.
intelligence to deal with, okay, this is what she needs, right? And but vice versa. As a woman, if your man walks through the door and this is how he's coming in. It's not always a thing about you that he doesn't like the house, or you didn't smell good or whatever. He's finally able to woosah from the day, and he's processing, right? So you got to be able to know and not take it personal that he walked in and went and took a shower. That doesn't mean he's cheating, so he's trying to hurry up and get the scent off of him. He just wants to decompress, right? And
Or you
if
trying to get clean for you.
right, or,
That part. Or he
right,
trying to get
or
clean for himself.
right, or
You know what I'm saying?
right,
Yeah.
or whatever the case may be. But we have to stop, like, taking things personal. And the way you do that is getting to know your partner. Understand that, okay, what's the evidence, like you said. And like you, Twan, said, okay, is my ego involved in this? What kind of work does this man do, right? Is he in the dirt and all this, that, and the third, or whatever? So if he immediately goes and takes a shower, sis, even if he doesn't kiss you, okay, like, it, is this really a problem, right?
Give them some grace.
Right, allow some grace, right? that
Exactly.
that you know
That's
that
facts.
he spoke to you, or he didn't speak to you, or whatever. Don't just immediately get into your feelings about something. Allow that grace, and now that should be your intent, is to say, I may have to check in. So whenever they come out, let me be in a soft space, let me be in a receiving space, to be prepared to handle whatever this may be. And I'm going to approach it as such, and kind of say, okay, hey, how was your day, or whatever. You got to be able to engage kind of like what's happening, but don't initially just take it upon yourself to think that it's something. Now you done created a conflict when, you know, somebody could have passed away or something, right? And he's just,
Right.
or whatever the case may be, he needs a moment to process, or vice versa. So covenant for me, that's what covenant is. We're not in our egos to where I'm gonna be in such a offense because you walked in the house and went and made a beeline to the bathroom. The first thing I'm not gonna think of is that you cheating and you trying to hurry up and get the scent off. He could have stopped at Burger
Yeah,
King
yeah,
and did the
right now.
whole bath,
Hey,
right?
if we want to get the scent off, he can stop that gas station and put his thing in the sink.
Right,
You know?
That's
exactly.
facts. He could have took a bird bath. He could have showered. He could have showered at her spot. You know what I'm saying? He could have showered at a truck
Yeah,
stop.
Right,
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
for
You know what I
sure.
Don't
mean?
look
For
for
sure.
don't look for reasons, please.
Right, come on now.
Correct. Correct.
So stop just going with the trauma or the things that people would naturally probably try and take you there. It's not that. And we got to start studying one another. We have to start communicating with one another and getting outside of our ego. So that's not the place for the ego.
And I think a lot of that has to do with, like you said before, is getting out of that space. I think a lot of it has to do with the unaddressed trauma that's causing you to move and think that. Because what movie was that? With she was like, "Oh, let me smell your dick. Let me smell your dick."
Oh yeah,
Oh, come on, you know what I'm saying?
baby
Like,
boy.
that's what it was. That's what baby boy. And you sit there and you look at these relationships, right? That they constantly bombard us with on TV, and then you see a lot of people emulating them in real life,
Mm-hmm.
because they're not really dealing with the fact that, like I think one of y'all was saying earlier, they're not really dealing with the fact that I'm taking all this information, right? And I accumulated a version of myself based off all of this external information.
Mm-hmm.
I think Brian said earlier, clutter, or
Well, I
Benet
said
said
that.
clutter. There you
Yeah.
go. That clutter version of yourself. You understand what I'm saying? I think if we can get to this space to practice, to be able to sit down and be like, okay, cool, where am I at right now? And we, we
Mm-hmm.
we we said it earlier, the absence of that masculine energy gives you the opportunity to be able to, process, well, where did I go wrong, where did I go wrong at, not
Mm-hmm.
where Antoine Javius went wrong at. You know what I'm saying? Like, where did I go wrong at in all of this, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
same thing with me, like, you know what I'm saying, when you're in a space to where your relationship doesn't, the conversation doesn't go the way it's supposed to. In my mind, first thing I'm thinking is, okay, well, what could I've done to make it a better conversation?
Boom.
What could I have done to, you know what I'm saying, what component did I add to this conversation to make that person feel the way that they felt? You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Because a lot of times I'll say what I say and I stand on it, and I'm just like, man, you just gonna have to stop being so emotional on what I'm saying, and you have to just understand. Don't focus on the messenger, but focus on the message. But like you said earlier, Benet, it's kind of hard to do that when the messenger is, you got a bad taste in your mouth from who the messenger is.
Mhm.
You
Oh,
know what I'm
and
saying?
who you perceive that messenger to
Or who
be
you
as
perceive. There you
well.
go. Your perception is real. Your perception is real.
Yeah.
You gotta have that level of discernment
I said
to be
perception
able
is
to make a decision on how to deconflict. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
How to deconflict the situation that you potentially could be causing within your relationship, causing within your job, causing within your relationship with your kids,
Mhm.
significant other, and all of that. And I think that's why, as a podcast, we are here to be able to provide some type of feedback or some type of tools to better understand that.
a perspective.
A
Yeah. Yeah.
perspective.
A
There you
Yeah.
go. A
perspective. Yeah,
perspective.
we just
Yeah.
we,
Cause,
we, we
'cause-
speak on things we see. I mean, because that's the whole purpose of sharing perspectives is we all have our two eyes that we see the world in.
Correct.
We don't have eyes in the back of our head. We don't have eyes on the side of our head. That's why you need other perspectives to maybe show you a blind spot you might have.
For sure.
mhm. Yeah.
So
Yeah. And and it's okay to upgrade your prescription, right? So
absolutely.
I like some people.
Hey, I
Some
like
people.
that. It's okay to upgrade your prescription.
And that way you don't
Like,
fall
Yeah.
for everybody's perspective because some people are nearsighted and some people are
That's
farsighted.
facts.
So
That's
and
facts.
you don't trust everybody's perspective.
right, right. But it is when someone shares, because I'm nearsighted, so every time I go to the doctor, right, there's sometimes that depending upon my diet or kind of what's what, there were years that my prescription changed for the worse, for several years, but I started taking better care of myself. Now it's kind of getting better, so my prescription is not as strong. I don't need the extra corrective lenses, right?
Oh, so you ain't got the Coke
Right.
bottoms no more?
Yeah, no, 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 no. Now, like, I was,
Yeah.
what I mean? And so,
Yeah.
but the thing is what I saw with that is like your perception, my perception of the world, right? Is I can view something as clean with my current prescription. And then when I had a stronger prescription, because my natural eyes were still in a weakened state, when I got the corrective lenses and I saw how dirty what I thought was clean, right? When I remember somebody telling me like, "Hey man, this is dirty," and I'm like, "Listen, I could see, right? Like I wear prescription lenses. I could see." No, sis. Now because my lenses weren't, I was speaking from the lens, from a certain lens. My perspective was that, so the message I wasn't able to perceive it, right? Because what I saw, was that. And so when I got a different perspective, right, when the doctor clicked through and showed me all these different perspectives and I saw clearer, it was undeniable that I was wrong, right? Oh, this G is really an F. Like, God damn, I was, really off of it. Then I think back to a messenger that told me that years ago, and I wasn't in a place to say, let me check myself, let me go check my eyes. I held on to my truth. And so when you are in a certain space and open to, when somebody says something, even if you can't see it, you be like, hey, let me borrow your specs real quick. Let me put these on and be like, okay, you know what? Actually, you are correct. Now, when you do that, you don't necessarily need to go to the doctor, right? These perspectives are coming to you, and now that's fixing your lens internally, right? You don't necessarily now need the corrective lenses. You borrowed somebody else's for a moment, and what they say, once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Hmm.
Right. That's a fact
Hmm.
right there.
Yeah, so it's okay changing prescription, and that prescription can be that you still need a stronger corrective lens. That's why I said the correction isn't a bad thing. We made correction and I'll say as women, it feels like discipline. It can feel like to an unhealed person of something wrong, something that you're trying to embarrass or something you're trying to, a personal attack. No, sweetheart, I'm just trying to get you to see, right? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I'm trying to get you to a place, and that's what corrective lenses are, is to help correct. After a while, your vision changes and you don't need that strong prescription anymore.
Or
You
you
can
might
start
need stronger.
yeah, or you might need stronger and
It depends on if you taking care of your body. If you taking care of
yeah,
you.
Sure.
If you ain't
yeah,
taking
right.
care of you, if you ain't fixing you,
Yeah, it's going to continue to get
it's gonna
get
get
worse
worse.
until what? You're completely blind, which is
Which goes
out
back
of
to why I
control.
said fix you.
Right.
That's right.
Right. But some people though, they are lost in that rat race of, well, there's always, I can just go to the doctor and continue to get bifocals, this and that. As long as I can see, I'm okay. And it's you're going that can be destructive as well, because the worse and worse your eyes get. Yes, you can see with these corrective lenses, but just
You
like
can lose your
Scooby-Doo,
glasses.
what happens when the lenses get knocked off, right?
Exactly. You can lose your glasses.
You are easy prey, right? You can't see now in front of you because you have depended so much on these external lenses. And anybody, I wear, used to wear glasses, I wear contacts. They will tell you take your contacts out, or practice trying to look at something in the furthest you possibly can. If you're on the computer all day, to retrain your eyes. Why? Because our bodies are self-healing, right? And if you're not aware that your body is self-healing, you're gonna always um, be dependent upon outside influences.
That's
So
why.
exactly. So you got to start, like you said, working within. All right. Once you are aware that you blind as shit, you should feel some way about that. What can I do about this? Because man, how many relationships or conversations I had with my boss, and they were telling me something, but my lenses were so out of whack, I couldn't see it, I couldn't receive it. Now, what are you going to do with that, right? All right, let me now just say, if somebody tells me something dirty, or they bring my attention to something, you should now know that I may need to listen to this and not take it, like you said, as a compliment, or what do you say?
A
Criticism.
challenge.
Yeah, right.
Compliment or criticism.
Yeah,
Yeah.
criticism. It is, hey man, I'm just pointing something out to your attention. You know what I mean? And you don't have to receive that in a negative way.
Exactly. And with the healing you, things to get worse. That is why I am so against reassurance, continual
Ooh,
reassurance.
unpack that,
Because
please.
if
You
you're
got to
insecure,
unpack that.
because if you insecure, that's your problem. It's not my problem. It's like you can have me over here constantly reassuring you, but when I'm not here, you turn it back into who you was before me.
Ah,
I'm the glasses that fell off your face. You know
yeah.
what I'm saying? now you walking
Mm,
around and now you easy prey to anybody that want to take advantage of you. I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to put you in a position to where you got yourself.
Mm.
You know what I'm
Are you
saying?
saying? Are you saying? And not to cut you up, I just want to better clarity. Are you saying? Um, when you say that's why I'm against reassurance, you talking about reassurance in all aspects, because I believe that there's a time and place for reassurance. You know what I'm
I'm
saying? It's
against
not
continual
always.
reassurance in all
Oh, you did say
aspects.
continue. You did say
Remember,
continue. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You did
remember we did a
say continue.
podcast on insecurity before, and I
Yes,
said,
I do
hey,
remember that.
I'll reassure you a little, but you gotta fix you. Like no
Yeah,
matter
for
how
sure,
much
for
I
sure.
say you got it, if you don't believe you got it, you ain't got it.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
So I'm not gonna keep. I'm
Correct.
not gonna live my life being your reassurer.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Because when I go, now what happens to you?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You know what I'm
Now
saying?
you got to deal with this
You're still
version of
at
yourself you
you still at
created.
that weaker space.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah,
Just
yeah, yeah, yeah.
fix
There's no
yourself.
growth in there.
There's
Yeah,
no
I see
growth.
where you're going. I see
Just
where you're
fix
going with that.
yourself. Just
Yeah.
fix yourself. And you won't need the reassurance of me all the time for you to feel complete about yourself.
Right. Right. Confidence
Mm,
is
address that
within.
ego.
Yeah.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that's also like me, like and my grandmother told me that. Like I remember I was dating a chick when I was back in 1995, dating myself. I was engaged. I was engaged to a woman. Went home. Grandmother was like, "Tell me about it." I told her. My grandmother was like, "You can't marry her. She's like, she's too insecure, and you don't want to live that life where you always have to reassure somebody."
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I took that and I said, she absolutely right.
Mhm.
That was a perspective that was presented to me, and I said, you know what? I think you got a point. And then, of course, I didn't go back. I was in Colorado. I didn't go back and break up with her immediately. But within a month or two, she did something, and then I just, all right, that's it. It's over.
Yeah.
Give my ring back.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, and it's funny that you say that. When we talk about like, I love the five love languages. That I am such a component of understanding your own love language and other people's, and understand that as you grow and mature, or as your lenses change, so does your love language often, right? I used to be a words of affirmation person. You got to tell me that I'm beautiful, or I'm doing a good job, or I'm this or that, or I didn't perceive that as love, right? I'm the complete opposite. I don't care what you say. It's how you show up. The things that you do, my lenses are different.
Yeah,
I missed out on a lot of love deposits because of that, right? Of my perception of it. If a man is spending time, or he's spending his money, or he's doing the things, certain things, that's he's doing that out of love, right? He's not doing that just because he wants to do it. He's doing that specifically for you. So a lot of times, again, as a woman, we can disregard you taking out the trash, right? We can disregard you getting up early, mowing the lawn on Saturday, or fixing things around the house. We view that as normal, right? This maintenance is what you're
I
supposed to
hate
do.
that word
We don't get
normal. I hate
right.
that word. I hate that word.
Right.
Normal from
This
your
what you
lens.
Ain't no
yeah,
such thing as
normal.
normal. Normal don't exist.
Right.
That part. That part.
But it is with a different set of eyes. There are plenty of men that I can give you a honey-do list. They wouldn't even know where to start, or desire to do it. So if this man is doing those things, he may not tell you that you're beautiful and this, that, and the third, but the house is taken care of. These are things that he's doing. That is an expression of love. And I'd rather have that than you sitting in my face telling me how great I am and how beautiful I am, but you're not doing nothing for me, right? There's no action behind it.
I'm
And
all about
so
action.
it's once you start getting clearer on things, I feel like your love language changes, and it is a window into where you are mentally, emotionally, and spiritually.
Yeah. Once you
Because
heal yourself, what you want for love changes.
right, because if your love language, and no disrespect to anybody's love language, but is your number one thing is gifts, okay? So you want people to purchase things and buy and shower you with those things. Um, why aren't you doing that for yourself? Like, why aren't you
Here's the
showing up
mindset.
in that aspect for yourself? So now that cup is filled, so that no longer is your love language. You're not expecting outside an outside person to do that, right? Because you're doing that, right? So it's just a window into where you are. And once you start learning your love language, your friends' love language, your family's love language, your children's love language, that changes your communication with them, your interactions, how you just show up in general, right? And um, it works. It definitely works. Now you're focused on still the giving. Okay, I may like acts of service, right? I want you to do something for me. That's how I receive love in this current stance. But if Antoine needs the reassurance or wants the words of affirmation, I need to be able to do that so that he can perceive love from me. And so that's the giving part. I'm not worried about you doing things for me. If
Right.
I'm giving you the words of affirmation that you need, now you're in a space to say, okay, what does she need? Okay, she wants me to go, empty the trash and do these things. I'm going to do that for her because my cup is filled. Like, and that's what I'm saying. We got to get back into a giving place and not worrying about ourselves. But you have to have discernment or know when somebody is a taker versus a giver. So
Right.
two givers need to be together, not the giver and the taker. It'll never work.
Reciprocity.
Yes. Woo.
If you get
Reciprocity. Yeah.
reciprocity, hey, beware. Keep your eyes open because they are in it for what's for them.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. 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 Right.
I'm
Right.
a firm believer in that. There's no reciprocity. All they care about is with them. What's in it for me?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So,
Agreed.
man, this was a great conversation. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Antoine, you got anything you want to say before we close out?
No, I just wanted to say, man, piggyback off what you just said, man. This was a great build, and I always enjoy it because I always enter these conversations from a position of a student, um, and I'll never, feel like I'm the master of, anything in life, because at the end of the day, because there's always still more things for me to learn, and I
Mm-hmm.
love it. I embrace it. I'm open to it. You know what I'm saying? So I receive it. So I just wanted to say, man, I appreciate you guys for taking some time out of you guys' Sunday. You know what I mean? For us to have this build together, man, is again, like I said, for me personally, it's things that I can take from this conversation and I can apply it in my life, and I think that that's what's going to make me a better version of myself moving forward. So many blessings and positive energy towards both of you guys, man, towards in this day. Um, and peace to the gods, man. That's all I had to say.
I just want to say something to that. All masters are students. They never
Yeah.
stop learning.
Yeah.
All masters of students. I can see that.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah.
We're all
Yeah.
students of this game.
Yeah, we never stop learning. How about
Yeah.
you,
Hmm.
Janae?
No, and we're all on one accord because I was gonna say that is a mastery level is a student level because
Yes.
you are always that's that being open to those other lenses, right? Is being able to see something and say within myself, well, maybe I need to investigate, right? So can I borrow your glasses real quick, right? And let me see through your eyes. And when you are a master, that's when you say you know nothing, right? Because at each juncture, someone's going to have a different lens for you to look at, right? And if you're comfortable in your own skin, not offended or by anything, and really open to other perspectives, that's mastery level. That's really mastery level because you're not threatened, you're not insecure, you're healthy, whole. That's how you get to the I know a lot of things, but just because I know a lot of those things, I still know that I don't know it all, right? And
Correct.
that's that's the student part, right? That is always going to keep you there. So I love listening, being a part of the show. I love, when we have comments and people are here and, things like that. So I love that interaction because that's me. That's the sapiosexual side of me. I want to look at everybody's lenses. I like to see that, and that makes me a better person. So, and I just want to shout you guys out as fellas that you guys offer such keen insight to me personally. That has helped me grow in a lot of ways. Even Twan, a lot of the conversations that we've had, I've had to sit back and take your perspective on some things because you definitely were correct in a lot of things, even back then. Just just
I
leave it
already know.
alone.
That's why I stood on business because I already knew. You understand me? I already knew. You understand
Right,
me?
right. You know what I mean? But I
Yeah.
just love that we're all like-minded individuals that can see from other perspectives, and we want to make each other better. So, to the people out there, get you some like-minded people. And when I say like-minded, not that they think exactly like you, but they have the
Growth.
willingness and openness to share. And offer their opinions. Those are the people that you need to surround yourself with because then you can be sharper. I can look at Bryan will give me insight, and I so appreciate you too, Bryan. We are newer in our friendship, but you've dropped jewels, to me. also that we've talked about, and I continue to grow as a woman from your perspective as well. So it's just I really commend you guys. Thank you guys for having me and showing me some love. So
For sure. I just got two things to say. First, I appreciate us having this platform and the ability to have these conversations. Growth mindset is all about growing. If you ain't growing, you're dying.
yeah.
I'm a firm believer in that. I think we hit it on the head where, men always giving the grace, women can do better. And I think we talked about some discussions on how we can come together as people to support each other and love each other and not just be a with them. What's in it for me?
Mm-hmm.
It's about what's in it for us.
Yes.
For real,
What's in
for
it for
real.
us? Yeah, that's
And
facts.
when you said the master thing, it brought a movie to my mind. Did y'all see Kung Fu Hustle?
Yeah.
Kung Fu Hustle?
Yeah. You
Yeah.
didn't see Kung Fu Hustle? Oh man, it's a classic. You got to see it. I'm not even gonna talk about it. We'll have this discussion later. Go see the movie.
I'll
I'm
check it
serious.
out for sure. I'm
Kung
check
Fu
it out for sure.
Hustle. It's what did you think about it, Benet? It was funny, but the message is really good. If you can see it.
Yeah, because it's gonna get you to finding your true self.
Yeah, and that's what it's about. That's
Yeah.
exactly what it's about. Finding your true
Okay.
self. And then
Is
the
that the
guy
dude
that
who
was
was
the master,
fighting the
it
cow?
become, yeah, not fighting the cow.
Oh no,
No,
that's
you're
not the one.
thinking you're thinking kung fu something else. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, something. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, it's not about the cow. So it's two guys. They're thieves. One of them ended up becoming a master, and there was a guy that was in prison, but he was like the master. Nobody could beat him. The other guy ends up beating him, and then that master actually ends up becoming his student
Yeah.
because he recognized
Okay,
he was
say less.
exposed to
Okay.
something that he wasn't exposed to.
Okay. Yep,
And
yep, yep. I watch it.
it's a funny movie, but
Yeah.
it's good though. It is really good.
It's called
And it
Yeah.
Kung
has a
Fu
message if you
Hustle.
pay attention. Kung Fu Hustle.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll find that one.
So all right. So but on that, hey man, I love you guys. I appreciate y'all time and until the next time.
Love you guys as
Bye.
well,
Have a
man.
great
Peace to
day,
the
guys.
gods.